Good morning, everybody. Patty, you want to take it over to welcome people?
Sure. Hi, I'm Patty Favaza, and my colleague and friend, Mickey Ostrowski, will be joining you this morning for our webinar on supporting siblings and peer relationships during a pandemic. Before we begin, we would especially like to thank Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authorities for making this possible for us to join you this morning. So welcome, everyone. We also want to just say that we recognize that all of you are very busy in your lives, especially during these challenging times of the pandemic. We hope today's content, during today's webinar, you will hear content that you can use and think of new ways to support your children, their siblings, and their peer relationships. So let's see, where's our, looking for our PowerPoint?
There you go. I have it up.
Okay. I'm not seeing that, Mickey.
Hera, are you seeing it? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Share screen. Sorry about that. I'm looking at it myself and it looks beautiful. And there we go. Let me put it on view. Sorry, everybody. It's very early in the central Illinois right now. It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. So we'll get started here. Okay, is that better, Patty?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to the next slide. So you may wonder, who are we? So I'm Patty, the one speaking, and I'm the blonde in the picture. I'm a former preschool special education teacher, former early intervention director, also a researcher and a professor. But my most important role, I think, in the world is I'm a mom of 4 children, 2 of whom have disabilities, and that's their picture to the side. And today, they're all in their 20s. And then Mickey?
Yeah, I'm Mickey Ostrowski, also a former early childhood special education teacher. I taught children who, first I taught adults with significant disabilities and then taught children who were deaf and blind. I'm a researcher, a professor. I'm the head of the Department of Special Education at the University of Illinois. And like Patty, my favorite role is being a mom. My son was born early and spent 11 days in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, and came home at 5 pounds in the US. And now he is 20 and 6'6". So yeah, anyway, that's him.
Yeah, and so we know we're speaking to you from other parts of the world. And so where are we from? While Mickey and I are both in the US, she's from the University of Illinois, which is right in the middle of the country, and I'm from St. Anselm, which is in the northeast corner of the country. And as you can imagine, during this pandemic, like many of you and your children, we've had to limit our time even with family members and friends. So if we can see the next slide. So I think we are all missing our friends. So we're going to show a little video clip here of 2 friends.
It's the adorable video of toddler besties that's melting hearts across planet Earth.
Their little legs.
I don't know. My night is complete.
The video captures 2-year-olds Maxwell and Finnegan running towards each other, arms wide open in their New York City neighborhood. They meet in a great big hug.
You are just adorable.
Maxwell's dad posted the moment on Facebook. This is just so beautiful. If we could all be like this. The hug is clearly striking a chord. It has millions of views. The boys met 1 year ago and have become inseparable. They hold hands whenever they're together and even have their own language that no one else understands. The video ends as the boys run off together towards their next adventure.
So as you can see from the video, you know, I'm sure those 2 little guys are missing each other in this moment. That was pre-pandemic times, like all of us. So our agenda for today is to really talk about 3 aspects of supporting siblings and peers in their social and emotional skills related to friendship and their sibling relationships. Secondly, to set the stage for positive peer and sibling relationships. How do you do that? Set the stage. What's foundational prior to those forming. And then lastly, strategies to consider. So I'm going to talk about the very first one, the development of social emotional skills. So we take a quick stroll through a review for many of us of what happens to lead to children developing friendships. What you see from this is all representing the first year of life in which parents and caregivers play such an important role. As you are caring for that infant, the child is responding to you, responding to familiar voices, coos, and smiles, enjoying social games such as peekaboo, and beginning to imitate not only your actions, your behaviors, your sounds, and your words. And even sometimes playing by themselves with toys that they have, all during the first year of life. As we jump ahead to the second and third year of life, children develop play skills that are at a higher level. They begin playing with objects, they show interest in other children. Even though they're primarily playing alone, they are actually observing usually and noting other children at play, including their siblings. They may offer toys to one another. They may, as they progress, play with others, even sometimes show cooperative play with other children. Pretend play, they sometimes do that. One of my children used to hold up her little shoe and pretend it was a telephone because she would see me on my cell phone. They may still play frequently by themselves, but they are moving towards more interactive play. The point of all of these in this overview are that they lay the foundation for children to be able to play. So if we look at the next slide, what we can see is that all of those previous children's play behaviors map onto this hierarchy of play. And if you particularly look at solitary, onlooker, parallel, associative, and cooperative in the left-hand column, what you're seeing in this progression is children moving towards more interactive play with their siblings and of course then peers. And when I use the word siblings, even if you don't have siblings in the household, we're also referring to those in that child's family circle. So that could include cousins. It could also include those in the child's bubble or neighborhood or their circle. It's important to recognize that while these ages here are approximate, so it's not an exact age that this would be happening, that they can be influenced by many other factors in that child's environment. So for example, the caregivers in the environment, the experiences they have with caregivers, their opportunities to play with other children, whether that's siblings or peers, even that child's temperament, or they, a child that their temperament lends itself to playing easily with others. And of course, the presence of things such as their vision, their hearing, their language abilities, all of these things impact their socialization and their play. So, how do we foster developmental progression of children's play skills? Well, let's look at a few things. One of the most notable things, and I won't read all of these to you, but the blue highlighted one I'd like to draw your attention to, that research shows there are many, many skills that are key to social emotional development in children as they enter school, but particularly their capacity to develop good relationships with peers and adults. So as we look ahead to the school age child, preschool years are very important in teaching children peer relationships, beginning, of course, right there with sibling relationships or relationships with other children in the family, such as cousins. So let's look at the next one. We're going to ask you to turn to the chat box and think about 2 words that describe why your best friend is your best friend. So let's see what we come up with. I'm not sure where the chat box is, Nikki. Let's see. Oh, here we go, chat. So I'm not seeing any. So I might, oh, here we go. Okay, great. Thank you for chiming in. So empathy and sincerity, someone wrote that's what, when they describe their best friend, those are 2 words that they use. Someone who, with whom I can think aloud. So that share your feelings, share your thoughts about what's happening in your life and your experiences. Someone who is understanding and supportive of me, all so important. These are not uncommon even to us. Oh, here's another one. Someone who's on the same wavelength with me. Sometimes we hear people say they're fun. I like them. They're trustworthy. I can confide in them. They're dependable when I need someone to turn to, much like here, on the same wavelength and supporting me. So these are all common characteristics of what we would describe for our friends. So let's look at the next slide. I want you to do the same. I want you to go to the chat box and answer this question. Think about children who are well liked. So think for a moment about children who are well liked. What do you notice about their behavior that makes it easier for them to have friends? So let's see what you come up with. When you see young children playing together, what makes it easier? Oh, there's a good one. So they have social skills and they're well-mannered. So they're maybe polite to one another. They're friendly. That's right. They reach out and befriend somebody. They have language, exactly. Polite, well-mannered children who are open to new children. So they are readily open to embracing someone who is new in the setting. These are all the similar things that Mickey and I notice in preschool classes as well. Oh, there we go. Skilled at sharing and turn taking. Excellent. What we see is children who do well at making friends have good verbal skills. They also have good listening skills. They're helpful to their friends around them and their siblings, and they're showing care, empathy about everybody. So sometimes some of these skills are missing due to age or due to lack of experiences, or even because they might have a developmental delay. So we think it's our job as parents and as early educators to actually teach some of these skills. So let's see how we do that. One of the, let me lower my chat box here so I can see this. There we go. Learning friendship skills often start right there at home with helping siblings or cousins develop positive relationships. By encouraging activities that foster teamwork, setting kids up to have fun together, giving children the tools to work out conflicts in respectful, polite ways with appropriate manners. Parents can help siblings develop good relationships that actually will carry them through the rest of their lives. What research has shown is that sibling relationships often play a vital role in how we interact with other relationships in our lives. Whether that's relationships as we age, our relationships with friends, our romantic partners, or our professional colleagues. Whatever siblings' age differences are, personality traits, or gender, the fact is the quality of their sibling bonds can matter a great deal and carry them on long into their more young adult relationships with people. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mickey, who's going to chat with you about the second agenda point for today.
Thanks, Patty.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hope now you kind of an overview of, the development of social skills. So why is it important, and kind of the stages that children go through as far as the development of social skills. So what we want to move now into is, how do we set the stage for positive peer and sibling relationships? So what can we do kind of in the environment, and what are those skills that are most important? And then we'll spend time talking about specific strategies you might use. We want to tell you that if you have questions, please post them in the chat box, and Constantinos or Hera will help us at the end, or we'll kind of go through. Patty will pay attention to what's in the chat box, and then we'll answer those at the end. So any questions you have, please put them in the chat box. Also, we want to make sure that we attend to just that we use different terminology. So in the US, it's common to say children with disabilities, children with developmental delays, children with special needs. And we know in other parts of the world, we might use terms like children of determination. So when we talk about children, we may use different terminology, but we mean the same group of, well, we mean children who just are struggling. They may not have any kind of diagnosed delay or developmental issue, but they may just be struggling with peer relationships. So Patty and I both have known children who may on many fronts, be typically developing, but they might just struggle a little bit socially. So we're going to talk about setting the stage now. So one is, we want to think about the environment, and this can be your home environment. If we were talking to teachers, we would talk about the classroom environment, thinking about your community. So the one thing is just making sure there's enough space for children. When it's too crowded, what we notice with children interacting is they tend to be more aggressive. So if they're in too tight of quarters where they can't really engage, they tend to be more aggressive. So we want to make sure there's enough space for them to engage, to interact. We also want to make sure, especially early on, that there's spaces for children to play with adult supervision. So especially if children are learning new skills, or they're struggling with a sibling or a peer relationship, we want to make sure that we can watch, so that we're available as adults to model, to facilitate, to intervene, to encourage. So that especially early on, we can fade that support over time, but early on, we want to make sure that we have that adult supervision there. We also want to provide enough materials that encourage children to interact. So you want to select toys that encourage cooperation. So things like blocks, like balls, like dramatic play materials. So pretend play foods, dolls, those kind of materials tend to encourage children to interact. They're cooperating together with blocks to build something, but they may need adult support to do that, especially early on. The other thing to think about when we talk about materials is it's really a balance. You want to provide enough toys, and the kind of toys that encourage cooperation, but you also want to limit toys so that children share. So think, for example, Play-Doh or clay is a really popular preschool activity in the US. Well, if every child has a roller that they can roll the Play-Doh out, or cookie cutters, then there's no need to share and to cooperate. But if we can limit the number of rollers or the number of cookie cutters, it encourages children to ask each other, to take turns with the material. So we want to think about that. So not so many toys that children, don't have to interact, but not too little that they're going to fight over those toys. You also can provide structure to materials that might otherwise be seen as solo activities. So think about a puzzle that a child is working on, and maybe the child might do the puzzle independently, but you could structure that activity to encourage cooperation. Maybe one child picks the puzzle piece and gives it to the other child, and that child tries to figure out where on the puzzle board that goes. So you can be creative and think about how we might use those materials in a way to foster cooperation. And then the fourth point is, when we think about the environment, is we want to set up opportunities, regular opportunities, so that children can develop and practice these skills that they might be struggling with, the play skills, the social skills. It needs to be a regular part of the day, a regular part of their routines, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what are the skills that we know from research, from observing children that children need and that we as adults have when we have successful friendships with peers or with friends? And these are some of these things that you mentioned earlier and when Patty asked you to give ideas. One is that a child is able to give suggestions, or we call it the play organizer. They might say something like, you be the mommy and I'll be the daddy. Maybe they're playing with dramatic play toys. Or let's make a farm with these blocks and put the animals inside. So someone's kind of organizing someone else's play. They also know how to share toys and other materials. They give toys to others, but they also have the skills to ask rather than just grab toys from others. They know how to take turns. So reciprocity, go back and forth and take turns. They're also helpful. They provide assistance. They also can ask for assistance if they need it, so they're not getting frustrated. They give compliments. It's fun when you hear children say things like, I like your new shoes, you're good at soccer. And we often hear in preschool classrooms that teachers who have set up a community where she compliments the children a lot, the children start to naturally pick up and give each other compliments. They also begin to emphasize, be empathetic with one another. So they see a peer or a sibling crying and they go over and they give a hug. They know a peer or a sibling is afraid of a movie, a TV show. They go and sit near that child. And then finally, they understand when and how to give an apology. When they knock something down, they know how to say, I'm sorry, or let me help you rebuild the blocks. I'm sorry about that. So let's look at a short little video. Let me give you a little context, and then Konstantinos will put this up for us. These were two preschool-age children, 3 and 4, who we brought together to make this video for a project we had. They did not know each other before we brought them in this context, and we were just videotaping them to see what social skills they had. So as you watch it, I want you to pay attention to what skills do you see the two of them engage in that would support peer or sibling relationships, the development of those relationships. So I'll let you put the video up. Okay, I don't see the video coming up. Konstantinos, can you show the video for us? Okay, maybe I'll try to do it on my side. Patty, will you give me kind of a thumbs up if you see it working, okay?
Let's make a table so the dinosaurs could live in. How about we make it like this? Probably we can make a big tower like this. No, how about we do it like this? Put those together and put these like this.
Okay, so in the chat box, what kind of skills did you see those children doing? And Patty, I'm going to ask you to kind of watch the chat for a second and just read them to me if you could. So what were some of the skills that you observed these two little boys displaying?
Communication skills.
Yeah.
Dialogue between the two children. Anyone else?
Go back to this slide. So what are these things did you observe?
Oh, there we go. Sharing ideas, collaboration, sharing the materials, just sharing in general. Seemed comfortable communicating with one another and sharing.
Okay, great. Thank you. So you saw too, like the one little boy at one side said, how about we do this? And then the other one said, no, how about we do this, and kind of go with the flow too, right? So again, these were two children who didn't know each other ahead of time, and it's kind of amazing when we watch children and we really zone into or pay attention to the skills that they have around peer relationships and sibling relationships. And sometimes we need to just provide some support and teach those skills. So we're going to move into now talking about some strategies that we can do as adults to support those skill development for both siblings and or peers. So I'll turn it over to Patty to start us with this part.
Yeah, so we're just going to chat about a few suggestions or strategies that you could use. The very first one you'll see on the next slide is that we should be starting early to teach siblings how to interact. So remember that earlier chart about infants and toddlers are already learning things. So about playing together and about interacting, even if it's with a mom or a dad. Or a grandmother. And so encouraging toddlers to help each other in doing routines together, providing verbal support for their play. I like how you played together, for example, or what a great sister or brother you are um, when you are observing them playing. Obviously, using materials such as books and songs about playing together that have a focus very specifically on friends or on helping one another. So we put two links there. They're available online. And these are one of the things we love about these links is it not only provides those, but it helps you think about the quality of the materials and choosing ones and the focus of it about being friends and helping one another. So the last point on here is providing those opportunities for that turn taking and sharing. So those two little boys that we saw together, even though they didn't know each other, they actually were doing some turn taking and sharing of materials. So obviously they had had opportunities to practice that before they met each other for the first time. So you can model those in your own turn taking that you do. Your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. Giving children even vocabulary or words that set up that reciprocity. Sharing the toys. So taking turns with if there's only a truck and a car with the blocks, or they're a doll and a stuffed animal. Teaching children, it's your turn with the truck and my turn with the car. And having them practice turn taking and sharing of those materials. The clear message from this slide is start early, teaching siblings to interact and enter into their play with them. As we look at the next slide, it's really about teaching siblings how to interact together. So when we talk about a set time of day for playing together, we make it clear when it's time to play with siblings and to have time to be on their own. It's your time to play with your brother or sister. Some families make picture timetables and put it on, hang it in the home or on the refrigerator on what will happen next in the day, and go to that chart that's up there. It's important to teach your children ways that their brother and sister can join in to the best of their abilities. Siblings really are quite imaginative about coming up with ideas for this. And so sometimes we ask parents, why don't you put a list up there of things that they like to do? And you can even have a picture of that up there with it. Again, so that children can say, let's do this. And they point to that visual chart. Teaching your child ways to participate in a game. I think when we thought about this, we were particularly thinking about children with a disability or a child of determination, ways to have them take part in an activity. If you have a son or daughter who has a limited attention span or has difficulty following rules, we encourage parents to show their siblings how to do a very short game together so that the child can participate. Showing children ways to communicate that they want to do something with their sibling, either using words, sign language, or pictures, picture cards, or bringing actual toys. Show us which activity or game you want to play. Helping your child recognize whether their sibling is enjoying something or not is really, really important because you need to know how they're liking what we are doing or not liking the activity. And sometimes for pre-verbal children or children who have difficulty communicating that, it's really, really important. So we encourage parents to play games of identifying facial expressions. Show me a happy face, show me your sad face, even nodding and shaking your head, simple gestures and sounds that when you recognize a child, a sibling using that, either facial expression, sound, or gesture, that you understand what he or she wants. Noticing when siblings play and interact together is really important. That looks like fun. Give them reinforcement. Say things like, I'd like to play with you as well. It looks like fun. Or giving a pat on the back or a affectionate hug as a way of encouragement. So if we look at the next slide, here's an example of starting early that might be especially important for some siblings. So we use the example here of a child with autism. They may have unique challenges with social communication or social interaction, or they may exhibit repetitive patterns of behavior. At the same time, they may also have excellent focus on a specific play activity, and we gave 2 examples here, cars and trucks. They may also have outstanding memory about phrases, words, letters, and strong spatial skills about the space around them and how to use that. So if you have a child who has autism or another disability or a child of determination, that it's really important to pay attention to not only what their challenges are, but also what are their unique strengths that we need to consider when we're planning those play activities among siblings and their earliest playmates. Tips for encouraging strong bonds between siblings on the next slide. It's really important that we do not compare one sibling to another or say things like, why can't you listen or play as well as your brother or sister does? Or your sister doesn't talk back to me. Comparing them to one another is a way that promotes sibling rivalry, could create conflicts, and might build resentment. So we really try to discourage that. We also try to teach them to appreciate the differences in one another. So you might have one child who loves to sit and read quietly while another one really prefers loud and very active games. When children have different interests, they may also have different temperaments. Conflicts can arise actually quite naturally. So it's important early on to teach children to respect those differences and keep your eye on what's most important, that we love each other. And so if one child chooses a family activity that's quieter and another one that's more active, parents can set up a system where they can work together to plan on how to take turns finding or find common interests in one another's differences. The third one, having them work on chores or projects together as a team. We see this in the adult world. It's one of the ways that many companies, institutions build teamwork and cooperation among staff. And so we also should be seeing this at a younger age, with parents finding projects and even household chores, setting this table together, working together to pick up toys. These things, first of all, help get things done quicker. But most important, I think, or more important than that, is actually they learn to work together as a team of sweeping, helping prepare dinner, making it in a game fashion, so that you're setting the groundwork for teamwork as they age, even as young children. The last one, of course, is encouraging good listening skills. The ability to listen to what someone is saying is so very important for young children. It helps them learn to empathize with one another and see things from a different point of view. So make it a point to have siblings listen when another one is speaking and try really, really hard to understand what the other person is trying to say or what their thoughts are. This is just a few more tips for encouraging strong bonds, of teaching respect to one another, and listening is one of the first ways that we do that, but reminding children to treat others like you want to be treated, with kindness, with concern about their feelings. And it obviously is used, sometimes children need to be taught the tone of voice is a way of, we all have learned as at the age of adulthood to recognize an unpleasant tone of voice. And so teaching children to use a tone of voice when they want to, even when they disagree, to respectfully disagree in a tone of voice that can be received by the other child. Not putting down the other siblings' opinions is another suggestion, and being mindful of their space and their belongings. I know with 4 children, I had to pay special attention to some of my children, and particularly those with disabilities, of understanding that they were more attentive to, these are my things, please don't touch them. And the other siblings needed to learn that, that was especially important to them, and being respectful of those differences in them. Trying to disagree, respectfully disagree. I taught this to my own children and to children I taught. That's a very easy phrase. Even my 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds could say, I respectfully disagree. And then you model to them, how do you respectfully disagree when we do not see things eye to eye? Tell me what you think, tell me what you feel, I'll tell you what I feel, so that they have ways and models of practicing that. Trying to figure out what's behind family conflicts, is really important. Do your children tend to squabble or argue when one is trying to get more attention, or they're competing for time or materials? Do they fight when they are bored or tired? Once you see a pattern that might explain the behavior, really trying to address those issues to minimize sibling squabbles would be really important. Fourth, and I think we've learned this a lot during the pandemic, of having fun together. We have spent more time, I think, together in our little bubble in our home, even though our children have aged. And it's especially important, even Mickey and I, in talking to parents of children, preschoolers and lower elementary age children, that it's so important to have fun together, and especially during this pandemic. What we know is that families who have fun together will be less likely to have conflicts, and they choose activities and games that they can enjoy as a family as a whole, and come up with those. And again, sometimes identifying those and having a whole range, a menu of choices for children to choose from. Lastly, and probably the most important thing, is to emphasize what your family bonds really mean, explaining to your children periodically, and especially to siblings, that being kind to one another and having the love and support of family is really the ultimate goal. Reminding children that they may prefer the company of their friends over a brother or sister now, but as they grow up, family bonds, your family will be so important and continue to be important. But that starts with a repeated conversation that emphasizes that, actually, when they are younger. So Mickey's going to continue to talk about a couple of more suggestions or strategies. Okay.
Thanks, Pat. Yep. Thanks, Patty. Whoops. Okay. And if you'll keep track of the chat in case there's any comments in the chat. So we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive now into 2 skills that are really important for us to teach young children. So one is, taking turns. So even as adults, we can sometimes struggle to take turns. So think about going to the grocery. I'm not sure what it is like where you are, but even going to get takeout food right now in the US because of the pandemic, a lot of us are going and picking up our food at takeout places or go to the grocery and they're put in your car. Sometimes it's hard to wait and go, when's it going to be my turn? Why do I have to wait in this long line? It's not a skill that for all children, it just comes naturally. They learn that skill, right? It's children they're not born knowing how to take turns. It's something they must be taught. They must be given lots of opportunities in order to learn that skill. So a couple things we can do at home to help develop the skill of turn taking. One is to play games that require turn taking. Those can be board games, they can be card games, but they can also be simple things like catch with a ball, or rolling for a toddler, rolling a ball back and forth. And we can use the words, your turn, my turn. So they're hearing that word early on and realizing, oh, this is taking a turn. I have a turn, mom has a turn, dad has a turn. We can also build turn taking into playtime. Things like stacking blocks. You put one on, then I put one on. Or going down a slide, using a swing, outdoor activities, racing a car, scooping sand into a bucket, taking turns if you're cooking with your child. You take a turn, I take a turn. We can also do things like use a timer or a song to measure a turn. So when children struggle, I want to use the iPad, or I want to turn playing with that particular car. We can, waiting is hard for children, so we can use songs to sing a song that, whose turn it is. I'm going to sing a song while you swing, and then when the song ends, then it's your brother's turn to swing. Or we can set a timer. Lots of families will use things like a little egg timer, sand timer, or a timer, so children take turns on things like an iPad or some preferred activity. Incorporate turn taking into everyday routines. There are lots of ways you can do this, choosing a TV show, cooking, picking books to read. One of my colleagues, they have Friday night where they rotate. There's 4 of them in the family, 2 children and the mom and dad, and Friday night they take turns. It's your turn to pick what movie you're going to watch and where we're going to get dinner from. And so whoever's turn it is that Friday night, they get to choose. So they've built it into a family routine with the siblings, and then there's not, as Patty would say, squabbling or arguing about what movie we're going to watch or where we're going to eat. And then practice waiting, giving children opportunities to practice waiting so that they get more comfortable with it. So playing games like stop and go at the park, stop and then let's go. So like red light, green light, we call it, where children learn to wait. Okay, now you take a turn. You can build those into activities so that children get the opportunity to practice waiting, so that when they're then confronted with, I need to wait for my turn, it's become a natural part of some of their skills. And then also, Patty mentioned this, but celebrating successes, using positive descriptive feedback when your child, you see him waiting in a difficult situation, you see him or her taking turns with a sibling or with a friend, telling them, waiting can be hard. You are doing a great job. I'm going to give you a high five. So those are some ways we can focus and take a deep dive and think particularly about taking turns. Another skill that children, we can teach children, and that is really a first step in learning how to share, is trading. So what is trading? And we really should begin with this skill for children who are having a hard time learning how to share. So I have the blue block. Can I trade for your orange block? So that's a way to practice or play with the skill of trading. Begin with objects that are similar or mean little to the child. So if you asked me to trade a cake for an ice cream, I really want both. I'm not going to trade. That's going to be hard for me to trade. Or a favorite blanket or a stuffed animal, those are going to be difficult. But if you ask me to trade crowns, the red crown or for the blue crown, or the big block for the curved block, that might be easier than, it will be easier than for my favorite stuffed animal or that dessert that I really want them both. You can use dolls or puppets to practice trading. So if you're playing, in a pretend play situation, you can build in opportunities where the dolls want to trade teacups, if you're having a teacup party, for example. And that you want to follow up with, giving some positive descriptive phrase. Following up is important. So if the dolls are trading teacups, you want to say, wow, now they're both happy. Both dolls have teacups to drink and to have the tea party. You want to practice by modeling the words for children. And Patty kind of alluded to this, but this is important for trading too. I know how frustrating it can be when your sister takes your special doll. Here's another one. Let's ask her if we can trade. Let's tell her to trade. So modeling those words so children are pairing, what does trading mean with what that activity is? And using trading as a solution for problems. So there are 2 boys and only 1 basketball. Do you want to play together, or do you want to trade for a soccer ball? So you can use the words, and then it helps children learn, oh, this is a solution. This is a strategy I can use. And Patty shared many examples, as we've been friends over the years, of her 4 children being really adept at learning this skill and doing it with each other. I have 1 child, so I had to set up opportunities to get him to learn some of these skills with us as parents, my husband and I, because he had to teach him with friends when we had to intervene if friends were over, or with cousins. So you could set it up so that you could practice the skills and then give positive descriptive feedback about them. So what are benefits when children learn skills like trading? They feel empowered, so they can now figure out how to get what they want, how to make others happy at the same time, how to solve problems. It helps them manage their emotions and solve problems without help from an adult. So they're getting frustrated, they're getting tired, they want that toy, so they can figure out strategies without help from adult because now they have this in their tool belt of another skill. And it allows both people to feel happy with the outcome right away. So if we can help children figure out a trade where both are equally happy, then they're both okay with the outcome. We've included in your handout the links to these, what we call the backpack series. They're on a project that Patty and I have both are closely familiar with and have done some work with. And there are specific ideas for trying this at home. How can you teach your child to take turns, to share, and to trade? So we encourage you to download those, to share them with others, and to use the strategies, use those ideas that are in there as first steps to help teach your child some of these skills. So I hope you're putting some questions in the chat box. And we want to look now at a video and we want you to, these are two siblings, and we want you to think about, given some of the skills that we've talked about over the course of the last 45 minutes, what are some social emotional skills that you see these children exhibiting? And I think I'll just play it since it worked last time. So watch the skills and then put them in the chat, and then Patty will help me see what the chat says. Whoops, there we go.
Oh no. It's okay. You're strong. You want Carrie? Alright. Here, Freely. Now I'm gonna carry you.
Yeah!
Every time I see that video, I smile. So Patty, tell me if there are words, are there things, if you guys would put ideas in the chat box of what skills did you see those two siblings, especially the bigger brother, exhibiting in that video?
Yes, so things they in the chat box are they saw empathy, comforting, helping mentality. Child pacifies others and helps them to play. Caring, love, encouragement, taking turns, all great things. Being a kind of modeling adult behavior, if you will, especially by the older sibling, I think is what they were referring to, being an adult caring. Okay.
Okay.
For his sister being hurt.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you could hear, you know, he encouraged her at the beginning, throw it when he gave her the ball. And every time I hear it, I hear different things that he said. He says, you're strong, and then throw it and carry you. So he's, you know, asking her kind of permission, want me to do this, but he's encouraging her and cheering at the end. So I don't know, makes Patty smile, makes me smile every time we've watched. So we've used that in other presentations and it makes us happy. Okay, so conclusions, and then we'll have time for questions. So what are benefits of strong relationships with siblings and with peers, friends? Increased self-esteem and self-confidence. Children feel better about themselves. Supports the development of other social skills. So as children engage with each other, there are many opportunities to learn new skills. Clearly results in less conflict. So if children can engage together, work together, learn these skills of trading, of turn taking, of being cooperative and engaging in play, of organizing each other's play and sharing, less conflict. Can develop more positive attitudes about others. So if you have a child of determination, a child with special needs or disabilities, then children learn, they see the strengths in each other and can build on those and have more positive attitudes. Builds a child's capacity to be empathetic, so to help each other when someone feels frustrated, but also to celebrate each other's successes like we just saw with that little guy, and contributes to overall quality of life. These are lots of reasons to support the development of positive peer and sibling relationships. When we think about our own friends and the friends that are important to us, certainly they contribute to our quality of life. So we want to stop here and answer some questions for a few minutes. So Patty, are you seeing some questions in the chat that either one of us can answer?
Yeah, so I have one question was posted that someone has two daughters, a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old. What kinds of games can I play together you know, I think with them, I think they meant for them to play together. I'll just take a quick stab and then Mickey, you can add to it. So, you know, when we play peekaboo with our infants, children love to play that too and see that startle response from their younger infant sibling, or patty cake games, or songs that have hand movements that go with them. So I'm thinking of Itsy Witsy Spider, Mickey, but so that we engage both the older child, but also the younger child has music, has words, has song that they are hearing while you're playing with them. I don't know, Mickey, you may have other ideas too.
Well, I think those are excellent. I think paying attention to a 4-month-old's nonverbals. So even the child sticks out his tongue, and we do that as a turn taking. We put our tongue, or do, you know, they do raspberries or blink their eyes. You can encourage your older child to engage in those kind of play. And like Patty said, lots of these nonverbal peekaboo, you know, what are you looking at? So I think there are lots of not picking up on the nonverbals. And even as the child starts to babble, you know, we do it as parents, right? We babble back. So as the mom or dad, you imitating the child, and then drawing your 4-year-old in to also imitate. Yeah, good. What other questions, Patty?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to two. One I'm going to jump to first. They're asking, Mickey, could you put up the page with the websites? So if you could be doing that while I read the second question. So we'll put those websites back up there.
This one?
I don't know. We'll have to see what they say, but
Okay.
I thought those were in the handouts, right?
Yeah, I think they are downloadable, but we'll check with Constantinos.
Yeah, okay. And then the question is, could these strategies be used for a child of determination, and for instance, intellectual disabilities or ADD of 9 years of age and sister 7 years of age? Or will these work only for younger children, 3, 4, and 5 years of age?
Absolutely. I think they could work for adults.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us have been in a situation where we've seen adults get frustrated because they're waiting for a turn? No, these are, and I say that kind of jokingly, but it's true, right? There are adults where we want to say, when they calm down, like, that was great. You waited you waited your turn and stayed calm. So absolutely, they can be used, and you might adjust the language you give, given a child being a little older, but absolutely set up opportunities for them to take turns playing card games, set up opportunities for even things like sorting laundry, where they can take turns throwing socks into a laundry basket. There are lots of ways you can set up turn taking or trading, regardless of the age of a child.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on that. What Mickey said is, it's one of the things she said, which you may not have picked up on it, is she acknowledged that child first. I know it's so hard. You've waited so patiently. So acknowledging and giving a compliment for, that child actually working through that, and then finding a way for them to play together. Another question, it says here, my son is 8 years old, has learning disability, can't speak well. He wants to have friends, but he knows he's different. How do I help him?
Yeah. So we often talk about, and I'll jump in first, Patty, then you jump in. We often talk about looking for kind of those natural relationships. So I might look in the neighborhood. Are there kids who are naturally engaged with him? And not that, oh, they're the helper, but they have similar interests. They both really like trains. They both really like ball, soccer, whatever. Or look at school and ask teachers if need be. Or is there a kind of a natural peer who really seems to, my son seems to connect with? Start there. Keep the play activities, I would say, short, so that they end. I would always say to my husband too, even when my son had friends over, let's stop when it's still at a positive, because we all know those can quickly turn into kids having, they're overtired, they get grumpy. So start small. Let's meet at the park for half an hour with that other family, or have that child over for a short period of time that you're supporting, you're helping, but it's short, it's positive, it ends positive, the child goes home. Patty, you have other ideas?
Yeah, I just would add to that it's really important that children know it's okay to be different. And so, and to acknowledge that, to say that, and follow that, I think, immediately with, what are the great things about you, and you can name those for a child, just like when we did that slide on autism. sure, they have challenges, but they have so many strengths. And so really helping children feel good about themselves and about even playing with those who are different, even their siblings, I think is really an important message to not only deliver early, but deliver often. So just adding that to yours. Mickey, I have one more question here. And it says, let's see, I have a niece who her parents are staying with my kids, a boy 3 and a girl 1-year-old. I found it difficult to deal with, especially when she's crying, asking for her mom. So she's not with her mom when she's there. She's 7 years old. Any tips? And my son or boy is copying her and everything. That's so common, right? They see one child doing something and, oh, you feel sad, I feel sad too. So Mickey, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so the way I understand it, the little girl is 7 and she's staying with the family who has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. First of all, she's crying a lot. She must be missing her mom horribly. So I would, try to think about how I can address that first. If you can find books that talk about, parents, she's coming back, find a picture she can carry around that, or a picture that can be in her room, or she could have in her pocket that shows mom. It's okay, acknowledging it's okay to miss mom, and I'm not sure where mom is. So I think that piece I would want to take care of first, because clearly this little girl is sad, I think, maybe because she misses her mom. So try to support her in that and give her strategies. If it means she's carrying around a stuffed animal or some comfort toy to help with that piece of it, I would try to deal with that piece first. Patty, you have ideas?
Just 2 comments, with the wonderful world of technology, if there's a way to have technology of here's a couple of minute with your mom. And I know some families that are doing this so that child sees them on their phone. The other thing is the other children, it's a great teachable moment for teaching empathy. Yes, he can share and cry in that, but what's a good thing we can do? Let's put our arm around our friend, our cousin, and show actually teaching them, I think, strategies that are offering comfort and empathy would also be
and maybe given choices. I was thinking too, like, what would make you, would it make you feel good to draw mom a picture, or would you like to read a book? Giving her some choices that are a positive way to engage. I think we don't want to tell kids to stop crying when they're lonely or they miss, but what's a strategy we can use? So maybe reading a book would feel good, or drawing some pictures for mommy and we'll put them here.
Yeah,
great.
What makes you feel good? So I'm seeing thank yous from people. And Mickey and I also would like to say thank you so much for joining us today. We were really looking forward to it, and we hope the information is useful. But we also want to note, and I think it was on the last page of the PowerPoint, Mickey, but that would also be in your handouts, that our email addresses are in there, so should you have any follow-up questions, please feel free just to send them our way.
Yes, so you should have copies of the handouts, like Patty said, as a PDF, and then access to or copies of the backpack series. So, and thanks again to Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority. We really appreciate the opportunity. We would have loved to have been there in person. So thanks for letting us join in this Zoom way, and everybody stay healthy and be safe. And we'll be doing another one of these next week on emotions. So maybe we'll see some of you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.